Boom, shakalaka boom. You're tuned in to the free-range human show of choice, your daily dose of reality radio. This is the Clay Edwards Show. I'm, of course, Clay Edwards. We are live here on 103.9 FM WYAB, streaming worldwide at WYAB.com, as well as the TuneIn app and Alexa. And, of course, we are streaming worldwide in stunning 4K video at Save JXN on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Rumble. That's right. Always growing that crowd over there on Rumble. It's the free speech alternative for video, whether you're uploading or streaming or anything like that. And, of course, X is quickly catching up with Rumble as a great free speech platform as well. So hopefully we'll see X grow into more of a video user-friendly platform here over the next couple of years. Well, frankly, over the next couple of months would be even better. So, look, I've got two guests in the studio. You can only see one of them on camera because we have two cameras, not three. The lady you see on camera is Miss Mary Jo Perry. She's the president of Mississippi Parents for Vaccine Rights. And then we have Miss Lindey Magee. She is the vice president of Mississippi Parents for Vaccine Rights, a.k.a. MPVR. They're here in the studio with me this morning. And what I thought would be fun or informative would be that with all the hubbub on RFK Jr. getting the nomination as health secretary, that we would sit down and actually talk about some of the fact and fiction of what he's going to do and what we hope we see accomplished over the next 4 years and 8 years and 12 years, whatever, as long as this crew can stay in office and we can keep doing things and not regress back to what we just came out of and what we're heading towards. Before that, though, you guys know that when news breaks, I break with it, and especially when we have the opportunity to give away an F'd around and found out championship here in Central Mississippi. Yesterday, and this has nothing to do with my guest here. I have to hang on a second. Yesterday, some idiot thought it would be a good idea to get out of a car and start shooting at a policeman in Flowood, and he actually shot a cop in Flowood. Thankfully, that cop is okay. He got shot in his bulletproof vest, but that cop returned fire and sent a future rocket scientist, engineer, and possibly even a NASA astronaut to go be with his maker. Not sure which one. But to that guy, good riddance, and you won our F'd around and found out championship. That is textbook F around and found out. If there's ever such textbook, look it up in the dictionary, find a picture of it. When it says FAFO, there should be a picture of that guy and a short description of what happened to him yesterday. And I know there's a bunch of you out there, oh, Clay, how can you be so insensitive and not have any empathy? You don't know what he was going through in life. I don't care what he was going through in life. That is what we call a community improvement killing. So thank you to the Flowood police officer. We're praying for you and your quick recovery, and hopefully you're not dealing with any mental stress over this. You shouldn't be. You did a good thing. You saved your life, and you got to go home to your family. So never feel bad about that. That guy made a bad choice. His parents raised him poorly, and that's all I have to say about that. F around, find out. Shirts are on sale over at buyfafo.com right now for only $20. Get one, and it is the Mississippi MAGA shirt. You wear a Clay Edwards FAFO shirt around here, especially in Jackson. It's a guaranteed conversation starter. All right, ladies, thank y'all for my little interlude there. I needed to get that off my chest this morning. I've been arguing with people. Well, I don't really argue with people online. I let them say whatever they're going to say, and I just say what I say, and I kind of post and go, so I don't get too caught up in the comments. And but there were some people upset with me this morning for my lack of empathy over somebody making a bad decision. All right, so circling back, Mississippi Parents for Vaccine Rights. You guys have, none of us wanted to go through COVID, but if there was any group that took the opportunity of what COVID presented and was able to put their message forward and use it as a recruiting tool and an opportunity to get your message out, it has been Mississippi Parents for Vaccine Rights, and used it as an opportunity to move some things forward. Mary Jo, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you guys do.
So I'm, like you said, I'm the president of Mississippi Parents for Vaccine Rights. Lindey and I founded it together back in 2013 as a Facebook group. We morphed over the years when we realized that we had to we had to play hardball in order to get anything done at our Capitol in Jackson. We formed a PAC, which is a political action committee. A lot of people don't realize what that is. You might hear the term PAC and not understand what it is. It's typically a campaign of some sorts, and ours was for medical and health freedom. And we've raised money and assisted candidates who were running for office, statewide office as well as local. And with the new MAHA movement, we've decided that we need to sort of align ourselves with that, because most of our families that have been involved, that have been concerned about vaccines, are also concerned about ultra-processed foods. They're concerned about the chemicals, on the foods and in the air that we're breathing and in the water. And so we've most recently started some new projects, one of which is the Mississippi Small Farmers Network, so that we can have a directory of small farms around Mississippi, so our people can find, local places to buy good, healthy, clean food, and also to network the farmers and help them amplify their voice, because they are up against, big ag, and big ag has a big lobby in Mississippi and tends to do, they fight us on raw milk, for instance. Like if I wanted to go to your house and buy some milk that you milked from your cow, I couldn't do it. In Mississippi, it'd be illegal.
It's one of the most ridiculous things. They'll actually arrest you over raw milk.
Right, they will. I know moms that trade it in parking lots like it's drugs, and that is ridiculous. All of our ancestors survived on raw milk, and so anyway,
drink this processed milk or else.
Yeah, so we've expanded our mission, and we've entered this new era of awareness of clean, healthy food and water and air, and regenerating the soil. And so the small farm is more relevant now than it's ever been. And of course, like you said, we did take advantage. I say it was like COVID. It was kind of a two-edged sword. It's something that we have expected, that we've posted about on social media for years. We knew that it was going to take some sort of pandemic where adults were required to get vaccines before we would stop and start looking at what we're doing to our children. And I think that's what's happened. People are questioning everything now. So we did, when the adults were being mandated or lose your job, they all started coming to the vaccine moms saying, what do we do? What do we do? And so we provided Zoom meetings with attorneys so that they could get some advice on how to handle these mandates. And so we did. We more than doubled in size at the time. And I think at one point we estimated over 30% of those of our group as healthcare professionals.
I met a girl last weekend, so a friend of mine's wife, that was able to get a religious exemption for one of the local hospitals she works at because of the information you guys put out there and helped people with. So it did, in fact, help out. I mean, I'm sure you've heard countless stories of it, but still, nonetheless, when you meet people out in the real world and off the internet that are in that fight and were able to benefit from that, it hits different. It really does. And seeing it in a comment section somewhere. Go ahead.
I agree. So, originally we started out as activists because we saw problems with our childhood schedule, not just that the schedule was overly aggressive, but also that the laws of Mississippi were antiquated. They were we were only one of two states in the country that didn't have a non-medical exemption. Then our medical exemption was really non-existent as well, because we've got bureaucrats at the health department on a state level that make these decisions. When a doctor fills out they have to fill out an application with the Department of Health to get a medical exemption for a child. So like for instance, in my situation, my youngest son had seizures after his kindergarten shots, and he was fully vaccinated for all intents and purposes. He lacked one of 5 pertussis boosters, so he had 4. And so he wasn't a threat to society. He's 5 years old, had 4 pertussis vaccines. I've not had a pertussis vaccine in decades and decades, probably since I was a baby. So my pediatrician
is that the one, just so we don't know?
The whoop and cough.
Okay.
Its DTaP is diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis, acellular pertussis.
What's the one they're making even kids now get to go out to Hines or to go to college? I mean, like kids that graduate high school today got to take another one to get to like junior college. I went through this recently with
They don't have to. There's none required. But when you go to the pediatrician, they say your child needs these because there's a difference between the schedule that's actually required.
Is there something that was maybe missed?
If you weren't vaccinated as a child, like if you didn't get an MMR, they might ask you for that. But most of the junior colleges, unless you're going into a health-related field or living on campus, don't require anything.
Maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah, but anyway, so but as we realized that our vaccine laws in Mississippi were so backwards and restrictive, we just set out to bring some balance to Mississippi, and we were called all kinds of names. And what's so sad about it is that we have a Republican supermajority and 100% self-professed Christian legislature, but yet it was like we were just up against this impossible wall. And, we fought for 11 years. I think we introduced over 50 bills over those years. There were times when we had almost the entire Republican caucus sign on to our bills or agree that they would vote for them. And we still had our bills killed by leadership. And so ultimately we wound up filing a lawsuit in federal court and won. And so Mississippi now has a religious exemption, but also through our work, the health department has become a lot more cooperative about granting these these medical exemptions. So as I was saying with my son, my doctor wrote the health department 3 different times asking for an exemption and we weren't able to get one. So he was banned from kindergarten in Mississippi. And that's when I realized we really had a problem here, because Mississippi's maintained the first in the nation vaccine coverage rate for children, but they've done that by throwing little kids like my Jacob under the bus. I was able to stay home. Lots of parents aren't. And I know you didn't really want to talk about vaccines today.
No. So, it's a good introduction. Introduction.
So, but we just believe that we all have the basic human right to healthy food and medical self-determination. And we're committed to the family as the first institution ordained by God, with parents as the final authority in their children's health-related decisions. So, that's just kind of where we have moved to. We did not used to be involved in anything environmental or with our food or anything like that. But since we've got our religious exemption accomplished and the medical exemption's working a little better, we'd still like to fix that. We've moved on to expanding to help our people find healthy food, because that is such a problem.
Yeah, we have a grass-fed, grass-finished, all organic meat sponsor here on the show down on the coast, Mississippi, Stonington Farm.
Right.
And it's phenomenal. And it's just something about knowing that you're getting your beef. The food's great, but it's also this cool thing about knowing that you're supporting that farmer, that Mississippi farmer. There's other ones here locally too. Those are just the ones that sponsor the show. They're great. I like dealing with them. They bring the stuff up here. But it's not the food. Again, I don't know any other way to say it. The food is good, and it's something cool knowing that I'm cutting the middleman out of my purchase, and that's just less taxes.
And you're supporting local business.
100%, 100%. And I know that there's mRNA free, and it is antibiotic free and preservative free, and all that stuff, and that just means the world to me.
Yeah,
So it's like you can taste the difference too when you're eating real fresh farm to table type food. And it's not hard. People that I want to choke sometimes are the ones that tell me it's expensive to eat healthy. No. It's expensive to eat unhealthy. And you're just making excuses if you think otherwise. But I digress. I'm really excited about what's going to happen here when RFK hits the ground running, and we can get some of these poisons out of our food. And frankly, it would suit me fine if they pulled every cereal off the shelves, threw them all away, and nobody ever ate another bite of cereal in this country. It's all poison, right? In my opinion.
Yeah, they've had our pyramid upside down.
Yeah, I did our food pyramid. I did a little research on that last night too, and then they tried to shove I was using AI just to look for some stuff, and they tried to shove the Harvard one down my throat as a better one too, and I'm like, no. I want heavy proteins. Don't tell me my proteins are bad. Don't tell me not to eat red meat, all that stuff. But we got to take a break real quick. We're here live on 103.9 FM, WYAB, with MPVR's Mary Jo Perry and Lindey Magee. We'll introduce you to Lindey When we come back, we'll open up the phone lines. If anybody has any questions, I just asked to stay on topic this morning. If you want to ask a vaccine question, that is fine. If you want to ask a healthy food question concerning any of this stuff, we're discussing the MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and these ladies are the go-to on that here in the state of Mississippi. We're glad to have them on the show this morning. We'll be right back on WYAB. Welcome back in to the Clay Edwards Show. We're back live here on 103.9 FM WYAB. We got the lovely ladies with the Mississippi Parents for Vaccine Rights here in the studio, Mary Jo Perry and Lindey Magee. We'll get back to them in just a second. We got a lot of stuff to hit today. I'm looking forward to getting to all of it. But first, this segment is brought to you by our friends over at Men's Health of Mississippi. Guys, it is Men's Health Monday. I just made that up. I don't even know if that's a thing, but it is now on the Clay Edwards Show. If you are suffering from any of these symptoms, you could be suffering from low testosterone. And we're going to get you a complimentary testosterone test over there. Well, there's a better word I'm looking for here. Screening. Complimentary testosterone screening. If you're suffering from fatigue, decreased muscle tone, lack of energy, low libido, brain fog, sleep disturbances, if you voted Democrat in the last election, that's not on the list. I just made that up, but I'm pretty sure it's a thing. Anyway, text Clay to 601-327-8550, 601-327-8550. And paying attention to what we're talking about today will also help decrease the likelihood of having low testosterone, and that is a fact too. So if you're taking your testosterone therapy and you want the best possible results, pay attention to what we're talking about today. Start eating healthier, and you will see your testosterone naturally increase as well. So check that out. Men's Health of Mississippi, 601-327-8550. All you got to do is just text 4 letters, Clay, C-L-A-Y, and they're going to get you hooked up with a complimentary screening today. I took my shot this morning. What's that? It's like the old Rogaine commercials. Not only am I a client, I'm also not only am I the president, I'm also a client. Not only am I the promoter, I'm also a patient. So anyway. All right, ladies, Lindey, introduce yourself. This is Lindey Magee, Vice President of Mississippi Parents for Vaccine Rights, and tell us what your passion is and kind of how you got into all this. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me cut your mics back on.
Thanks so much for having us on.
Thank you for getting up, and everybody wants to come and do the morning show until they got to get up and come do the morning show. It's like 5:30, and then got to get here, and it's never as easy as it sounds till you do it.
It was an early morning driving up from Macomb. I'm a homeschool mom. That is due to the fact that when my kids were younger, we did not have a vaccine exemption. And I just felt completely convicted over vaccines and did not want to vaccinate them. My youngest daughter had a reaction to the hepatitis B vaccine in the hospital and had to be readmitted within about 20 minutes of having it. So she's doing fantastic, just turned 16, and we have just been watching closely as Trump was elected and, just praying that Bobby would be confirmed. And now that he has been, just elated to see what he is able to get in there and do, because there is a war right now on our kids. Watching the hearings, I was amazed to see, it seems that there are a lot of Americans now who are paying less attention to Hollywood and a lot more attention to politics, and that just delights me.
Well, the old saying for years is politics is downstream from pop culture, or is it pop culture is downstream from politics? They're downstream from each other. And we've seen that more so than ever. And also, unfortunately, something I've noticed over the last few years is we've replaced our religion with our politics, but that's another conversation for another day. But people are definitely paying more attention to politics, that's for sure.
They are. And speaking of religion, for those that might have watched Bobby's confirmation, the hearings that were going on, the Democrats during one of his hearings mentioned the word measles 25 times. I feel like they use that podium more like a pulpit to preach their vaccine religion. They mentioned diabetes, heart disease, and obesity 0 times, not 1 time. And, there's 220 million Americans that are suffering chronic disease. And 90% of healthcare costs are for chronic disease, and that is straight from the CDC. And the majority of these diseases, like heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, depression, obesity, are preventable. So, in the early 1960s, Bobby talks about this, about when, his uncle JFK was president, that 6% of Americans had chronic disease and 3% were obese. And we spent $0 every year treating chronic disease. 0. And today, 60% of Americans have chronic disease. About 70% are obese or overweight. And, if we look just to Japan, that looks like 3% of Japanese people are obese or overweight. And 77% of American kids can't qualify for military service. We have a problem. We have a problem in the United States.
What's that number? I just heard that the other day. What is it? It was huge.
77% of American children cannot qualify for military service.
And we keep making all these other excuses about why recruitment is down.
Yeah.
I would think that that's the reason why recruitment is down, is the people who want to join can't. I couldn't, but I'm completely deaf in one ear is why I couldn't, and that's a valid reason why. But nonetheless, that's not an obesity epidemic. That's just something that happened along the way. But neither here nor there. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, in the 60s, the average pediatrician saw one case of diabetes in a 50-year career. And today, one out of every 3 children who walk through his office is diabetic or pre-diabetic.
Well, I just pulled this number up, too, while you were talking. And you mentioned the obesity, and this all tie back into the diabetes stuff. I just said average weight of Americans in 1950 versus today. And we've all seen that picture, right, of Americans on a beach in the 50s or 60s. You could not a fat person in sight. Yep. And now you see a picture, and it's not a lot of attractive people. Anyway. In 1950, a woman, it went with women here, women in the 1950s, average weight was 135 pounds, while today the average American woman weighs close to 170 pounds.
Wow.
Wow. That is a 35-pound swing in just over half a century.
The thing that really just jumped out at me, I went to a Skinner concert when they were on their tour through Brandon a few years ago. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I went home and I pulled up some old Skinner concerts from like when we were kids, and they were outdoor and the kids all had their shirts off. Every one of them was a beanpole. There was not one chubby kid in this sea of youngsters. They're all beanpoles. Mm-hmm. And I thought, what are we doing? I don't think it's necessarily overeating. I think it's what we're eating.
Yes.
It's what we're eating. It's what we're getting in our water. You mentioned low testosterone earlier. There's been a 50% drop in sperm count in the last 40 years.
Yeah.
It's cut in half.
And the irony of that is low testosterone is supposed to help your sperm count. High testosterone is not good for your sperm count. That's one of the things they tell you when you're taking testosterone therapy. If you plan on having kids, you need to wean off of it so your sperm count can be higher again. I'm out on that at 47 years old, but for those that are dealing with that, so I do find it weird that the sperm count is down and testosterone levels are down. Mm-hmm. That tells you we're doing something seriously wrong here.
A lot wrong. Yep.
But circling back to the weight, that's the one that gets me. The concerts. I was at the rodeo the other night. It was Gretchen Wilson. She draws a little older crowd, but I was kind of on the side of the stage, and I was looking back at the front row of all the kids. It was mostly still all young kids filling the floor down there, because I don't think a lot of adults have the energy to rush down there and do all that. That's something still for the younger crowd that want to rush and stand up and not have seats and everything. And I was just amazed. I don't know if your kids were down there. I'm sorry. Surely I'm not talking about y'all's, but it's a lot of chunky kids, man.
Yeah.
And I've battled weight my whole life. I'm not speaking from a glass house without throwing rocks here a little bit, but it's tough. I mean, you got there. And I'll tell you the other thing. It is what we're eating, and it is us overeating. It's a combination of both. Mm-hmm. You can't walk in anywhere right now and not have 500 snacks at you, just coming at you. The pretty colors, the brightness, the double stuffed Oreos, all of that stuff. And go into a gas station. I mean, thank God you can pay at the pumps, because if I walk in a gas station, I was good this morning. I walked in and got 2 bottled waters and walked right out. But it took strength to not grab something that I didn't need and shove it in my mouth. And you can't get, even if you go to the grocery store, you're loaded up with all the healthy stuff. You're at the checkout, loaded up candy on both sides. It's just, we have way too many options. We have way too much junk that's just readily available. And it's like, it just blows my mind when we see these people raising hell down at the Capitol trying to get stuff like Kratom banned. And they have no interest in getting any of these high sugar foods that they're poisoning their kids with banned. Mm-hmm. They're like, y'all just focus on all the wrong. How about we ban Coca-Cola?
Well, that's just like SNAP.
Pepsi.
SNAP, I think, is the fourth largest government entitlement program. And the majority goes toward literally poisoning our children.
Look, I saw on one of those liberal sites that get pushed in front of me here and there every time I log on to Google, they were crying about Robert F. Kennedy's going to limit what parents can buy with their EBT. Good.
Right.
Good.
Right.
He shouldn't be able to buy Coca-Cola. Don't outlaw nothing. Let me rephrase that. Right. Kids should not be drinking Coca-Cola.
That's right.
If I got to be 21 to buy beer, and beer is healthier for you than Coke.
I should not be paying for a child to drink Coca-Cola with my tax money.
No.
So that I can then later pay for their chronic health condition.
I love that. Let's take a break real quick. We got the Mississippi Parents for Vaccine Rights President and Vice President here in the studio, Mary Jo Perry, Lindey, Magee. The phone line, the Mazda Jackson phone line, I hadn't mentioned it this morning. If y'all got any questions for the ladies or just want to chime in, is 601-879-0002. The Guns and Gear text line, 769-241-1944. We're going to get back on topic when we return. This is The Clay Edwards Show. Welcome back in to the Clay Edwards Show. We're live here on WYAB, having a great conversation off air there. I got to get back to that during the next break. People's personal business, so I can't bring it to air. But we are here live in the studio with the lovely ladies from Mississippi Parents for Vaccine Rights. We've got Mary Jo Perry. We've got Lindey Magee. Real quick, this segment is going to be brought to you by our good friends over at Huey Magoo's. Huey Magoo's is the filet mignon of chicken. Over at Huey Magoo's, they serve up only the top 3% of premium chicken tenderloins. Huey Magoo's handcrafted tenderloins are marinated for 24 hours and cooked to perfection for you and your family. You'll taste the difference. Huey Magoo's is not your ordinary chicken tender joint, though. They also have wraps, sandwiches, salads, and meals. You hungry yet? You know you are. Visit Huey Magoo's today, Bass Pro Drive in Pearl or Lakeland Drive in Flowood. Huey Magoo's, the filet mignon of chicken. As we talk about eating healthy today, eating healthy, and I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning of the show, it is as easy as you want it to be. It is as inexpensive as you want it to be. And you can do both of those over at Huey Magoo's. Just throwing that out there. They have great grilled chicken breast. Again, it's top 3% of chickens. So get by there. Try it out. Again, just don't order the fried if you want to eat healthy. It's that simple. Everywhere has a grilled option now. All right. Ladies, we were going to the break there, or coming back from the break. In the break, somewhere along the way, we wanted to circle back and discuss the farmers, this farmers initiative you have. Am I got that right?
Yes, it's a project of MPVR. So it's important that Mississippi small farms have statewide support and that their voices are heard, and those of us who consume their products are able to find them. So we have started a network of small farmers and consumers of small farm products. If you go to our website, MPVRPAC.com, and click on the projects tab, there's a form there that people can fill out to become a supporter of small farms. And so we've got quite a few small farms, in that network, as well as consumers. We need to have people involved in that because the big corporations that, like Tyson, they have representation at the Capitol with our legislators, but the small farmers do not. So this is a way that we can amplify our voices together, that we support small farms. And then we also, as I said, we're planning to have a directory on our website as it grows, so that our membership can, or anybody that wants to visit our website, can go to our Small Farmers Network tab and be able to find a local farm to buy, either veggies or fruits or beef or eggs or whatever.
Well, I thought it was one of the great things that you may know a little bit more about this than me. I'm late to the party. I got here about 4 years ago, and I've been trying to play catch up ever since on kind of what's going on and the minutia of all this. Mm-hmm. But didn't Andy Gibson do something for our farmers as far as the beef farmers where they could sell direct to people? You weren't always able to buy direct from a farmer, right?
Yeah. So my husband and I actually grow and sell grass-fed beef. And I can sell like right out of my freezer on my farm as long as I had the beef processed at a USDA certified plant.
Okay.
And there's no tax on that. So.
Yeah, but you weren't always able to do that, correct?
I really don't know because we had not been doing it. We just started like within the past year. Mm-hmm. But I do believe that that's something new.
Yeah, I do too. I remember it was a pretty big deal when it passed. I think Andy's done a lot of good stuff for Mississippi when it comes to that type of stuff there. It's just important. I mean, we need to be able to support our farmers directly. It
is.
So with this, with your farmers, what's it called again? I just want to say Farmers List.
Mississippi Small Farmers Network.
Mississippi Small Farmers Network.
Right.
So farmers can go sign up for that and get listed?
Yeah. So if you go to MPVRpack.com, click on the projects tab, there's a form there that they can fill out. And we that's the plan, is to put them in a directory on our website.
And from the consumer side, because I guess we probably got more consumers listening this morning. I know we do have some farmers. But for the consumer side, if they got somebody, if they want to go find some local farms to do business with, they can go there and it'll break it down, like what they farm, what they offer.
Right. And if they have a website, what their contact information is, what they produce.
Where they're located.
Right.
All of that good stuff, so they can try to really focus in on doing business with people that support the kind of stuff that they need.
Yes,
it's healthy.
Absolutely.
I like it.
Yes,
I like it. We were talking during the break just a little bit about Lindey. You brought up. I know we're bouncing around a little bit here, but I got so much I want to hit, and I jump down rabbit holes. Lindey, you mentioned an Ozempic bill federally where they're trying to pass a bill to make all of us, or make healthcare providers, or make the government pay for people's Ozempic.
Yeah. Bobby talked about there being a bill that would force the government to pay for every single person who is overweight or obese to be on Ozempic. And I have the numbers for what they are. Give me 1 second.
I'm going to guess over half of the country.
Oh, well, it's 70%, right? And Ozempic is $1,500 per week.
Per week?
Uh-huh.
The generic you can usually get for about $350 a month. But of course, we're not going to get the generics.
Right.
The government's paying for it, only the best.
So the bill before Congress would force insurance companies to pay for it for every obese American. And since 74% of the population is obese, that looks like $3 trillion a year. And, Bobby talks about, and you brought up, eating healthy does not have to be expensive. You could feed every American 3 meals a day of organic food, and
but that doesn't get big pharma rich.
It's all about that bottom line.
Yeah, that don't make big pharma trillions of dollars a year. Come on, get your head in the game.
I just can't wait for him to get in there, because all of our agencies are so captured, and I feel like that's going to be one of the first things that he does to clean up.
But one of the first things I hope, and I'm not sure if it's him or if it's Linda McMahon, if she ends up over the Department of Education or who, but getting the meals at the schools situated and getting our kids eating healthy from the jump is going to make a huge difference. Like I was telling you during my carnivore journey, once I stopped eating crap, my body quit craving crap. It started craving really good food. I'd never eaten an egg willingly before in my life, and my body started suddenly just craving eggs after 2 months and 45 days of only eating meat. It was the weirdest thing, and vegetables, and like craving fruits and all of that stuff. It was so weird how that happened. Our
ultra processed food is designed to addict us and to make us biased toward junk food. I read a study, it's been a couple of weeks ago, about rats, and they had fed them just the standard rat diet, and then what's healthy for them, a ration, and then they fed them garbage, like cheesecake, and I mean they just gave them all the garbage food, and they devoured it. They gained weight. When they went back to feeding them regular food, they wouldn't eat. It was like it changed something in them, and they wouldn't even eat good, healthy food. Yeah.
I remember seeing that. It's addictive. It literally, food is a drug. I remember when the Ozempic stuff first came out, it went viral, I guess, on TikTok. And I'm looking back, I guess it was no accident that they the diabetes drug went viral to become a diet drug. I'm sure that influencer was a plant by Big Pharma to make that happen. But I remember all the people who were taking the diabetes medicines that are diabetic, and they got very mad that other people were taking their diabetes medicine because as a weight loss medicine. And I guess I looked at it a little bit different because I just always do. I guess that's my knack, is I kind of say things differently. But if we got to pay for something, I would rather pay for diabetes prevention, being people taking it to lose weight, than I would paying for the people who had no self-control and ended up with type 2 diabetes that was completely avoidable, for the ones that were completely avoidable.
Right. So prevention is always better than a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
An expensive Band-Aid that ultimately doesn't ever resolve the problem. Ozempic is wildly popular, and I know people who are diabetic or have thyroid problems, and it has really helped them to get on it for a while. Even infertility, it's helped women to get pregnant. But we're finding out now that it can permanently damage eyesight. That if you stay on it for too long, I think it's over 12 months. 12 months or over, your risk of thyroid cancer goes through the roof. And it also, and I've seen people locally in the hospital with gastroparesis where their stomach doesn't empty properly, and sometimes that's not reversible. Yeah. So just like everything else, you really got to weigh the risks and the benefits. And I don't really know that we know what all the risks are at this point.
Yeah, I mean, full disclosure, I do the generic version. I think 3 to 6 months, if you're intent on losing some weight, tie it in with a proper diet and get off. I mean, you don't need to be on a weight loss drug forever. And
I think, like you said, I think that when if you've got something to give you a boost like that, and you have to start eating differently because of the way it makes you feel, then you could develop new habits possibly.
It's a great way to train yourself to eat less food.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a great way, but it's a way.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, great way is just doing it, through mental discipline.
Right.
But, look, we got to take another break real quick. We ran over those last 2 segments. We'll be right back with Mary Jo Perry and Lindey Magee, Mississippi Parents for Vaccine Rights.
2 hours is.
The Clay Edwards Show. Looks like we got about a minute before we have our top of the hour break. So what we're going to do when we come back here with the lovely ladies from Mississippi Parents for Vaccine Rights, we're going to talk about the Poison Without Consequences bill that trying to get killed down at the Capitol this year. They say it's dead, but we want to make sure it's dead. And then we're also going to discuss things to look for on food labels. Just because it says 0 sugar does not mean it is really 0 sugar or that it's healthy for you. I learned that with my coffee sweeteners. Kept wondering why I was getting kicked out of ketosis. I was drinking sugar-free, 0 sugar coffee sweetener. And there's a bunch of dangerous oils in those things that are not good for you at all. We'll get to that and more. We'll be right back on the Clay Edwards Show. Boom, shakalaka boom. We're back. You're tuned in to the Free Range Human Show of Choice. Literally, the Free Range Human Show of Choice. If there was ever any 2 guests that phrase represented better, I don't know who it is, because that is what they are all about. Choice, parental choice, being a free-range human. And it was one of those other things like breaking rules when necessary. I saw a bumper sticker or I heard somebody say something that sounded similar to that, and I said, you know what, that will sound great in my intro. And that's how that was birthed. Real quick, guys, this segment is going to be brought to you by our friends over at, let's see here, Any, Mini, Mighty, Mo. Who have we not talked about in a little bit? How about El Patrio Mexican Restaurant? My good friends over there at both locations in Brandon, Cross Gates 042, where your boy lives, or the one in Dogwood, right there on Flowwood Drive. Not Flowwood Drive, Lakeland Drive. I get all my drives confused. Lakeland Drive. 2 great locations, locally owned, locally operated, ran by a great husband and wife duo. The lovely lady runs the one in Brandon. The awesome husband runs the one over there in Flowood. They both got great patios. They have karaoke night and more. You can go eat lunch. Go get you some fajitas. Again, we talk about ways to eat healthy and affordably on this show. Go get the lunch fajitas. Pass on the tortillas. I know it's hard. The flour tortillas are phenomenal. Pass on those. Just eat the meat and the vegetables, and boom, you zero carbs. I'm not saying maybe cook in some salt, whatever. I mean, you're going to make some sacrifices here and there, but you can still get your carb-free lunch and eat healthier on the go and for less than $10 at a sit-down restaurant. Or, hey, take the family, enjoy the full meal deal, all that good stuff. They're at El Patrio, Brandon, or Flowood. Again, locally owned, locally operated. The Brandon location is directly in front of Crossgates subdivision, right there next to Lost Pizza and Bops, there across from the library on Highway 80. So easy to find. And, of course, the big Flowood location is right there in front of Dick's Sporting Goods. So on Lakeland Drive, you can't miss it. All right, ladies, we were talking during the break, or before we went to the break. Y'all were telling me about a bill. They're telling y'all it's dead. It's SB 2472. The nickname for it is the Poison Without Consequence Act. Tell people what it is. And, again, they're saying it's dead, but it ain't dead till it's dead. So maybe they'll need to call their senators and just remind them, hey, we want this bill dead. Whoever wants to be the one, I think, Lindey, you brought it up, so why don't you tell us about it?
Well, it's a bill that's a blatant liability shield for pesticide manufacturers and sellers. It's much like the 1986 Act, the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act, that gave vaccine manufacturers immunity from lawsuits and has led to widespread harm without accountability. The bottom line is that it's a protection racket for pesticide manufacturers, ensuring zero accountability for harm they may cause. It's a gift to big ag and chemical companies at the expense of the people of Mississippi. And so that's why we've nicknamed it the Poison Without Consequences Act.
That's basically the same thing they did for the vaccine companies with COVID, right? Or for all of these vaccines, right?
Well, our childhood schedule, that's the reason why after 1986 they worked to get all of the vaccines required for children, because then they were under that liability-free umbrella.
Right. So every time a vaccine is approved by the FDA, there's a mad rush to get it on our childhood schedule where there's immunity from liability. So even the COVID vaccine, it was immune from liability under the EUA, the emergency use authorization. But when that was coming to an end, before it came to an end, they made sure they got on the childhood schedule, so there's no liability.
They put the COVID.
Yeah. So up until COVID. Children got 72 doses throughout childhood of different vaccines, like from birth. And that's not including from birth to 18. That's not including what the mothers get while they're pregnant now. But with COVID, they added the COVID vaccine and several boosters as well as an RSV. So our childhood schedule is going to continue to expand until we do something to stop it.
I mean, legitimately, what's necessary with these vaccines, and I know we were here for a long time without any vaccines. We have diseases, that kind of stuff comes and goes. What is there anything? I mean, if you had you could wave a magic wand and make the vaccines go away, what would stay? What would go? Realistically,
well, I'm a big proponent of free market, so I don't necessarily like Bobby Kennedy. I don't care to make any of them go away. I've been, we've been criticized for not wanting them all banned. I think that's un-American. Yeah. But I think that we need to be sure that they're safe. And none of our childhood vaccines have had a double-blind, inert, placebo-controlled safety trial in order to be authorized by the FDA.
Except for COVID.
Yeah. Well, right. Okay. That's because they've heard us complaining, I'm sure.
But that's a wake-up call to know that.
But I would say, I mean, if you look at these vaccines, and I always say benefit versus risk, and we really don't know what the risks are. The vaccine schedule as it's currently given, like a newborn baby at 2 months gets like 8 to 9 vaccines, antigens in one visit. We really don't know what the risks are, and as we were talking about, we have very sick children. But the diseases that are almost a death sentence, the only one that I know of that we currently vaccinate for right now is tetanus. and it's probably one of the less reactogenic vaccines. But and I've seen tetanus on my farm. It's ubiquitous in the environment. It's not contagious. It's in the soil. So I carry my receipt from a tetanus shot I got a few years ago because I live on a farm. We were excavating all the risk factors. And not too long after I got my booster, we had to shoot an animal that had tetanus. So, it's a real thing. And so I would like to know that I have a safe standalone tetanus shot, which is not available right now. You can get a tetanus diphtheria, but most of them are tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis. And some of them contain mercury, some of them contain aluminum. So you really have to shop. I think that a safe tetanus vaccine for, people who live on farms or whoever. But I think that one, but the other diseases are all treatable. And it's 2025. It's not 1940 something like when we had the measles vaccine for the first time. Mm-hmm. And even then, people weren't afraid of measles,
So one of the things that, I think one of the nicknames I've heard for you guys, and one of the things they constantly bring up with Bobby is, they call y'all moms for measles, or I've just heard a million nicknames.
Yeah, measles moms,
and stuff like that. I mean, do you think is the measles vaccine really necessary? I mean, is it? I'm guessing your answer is going to be no. I mean, based on what I just heard you say.
I think that if we had a measles outbreak, like a mass measles outbreak in a virgin population, that we no longer have, years ago, a mom would get measles as a child and then would have lifelong immunity, and she would pass some of that protection on to her newborn so that in the first year of life the baby was protected. We don't have that now.
Do we still have chicken pox parties?
We have a mandatory chicken pox vaccine.
I remember being forced to get chicken pox when I was a kid,
yeah.
So you don't get it out of the way.
I worked really hard to infect my daughter with chicken pox when her dad had shingles and had a party. She ended up with 2 pox on her body, and no one got infected at the party, even though they were sharing suckers.
Yeah. So way more difficult than...
I had to keep that under wraps when it happened, but now I feel pretty free to talk about it because the whole mindset has shifted so much.
Sure. Well, like I said...
we all had chicken pox.
Well, the thing is, when...
You don't ever hear about people having chicken pox anymore.
I had chicken pox. I wanted my daughter to get it so that I could be exposed to it as an adult and hopefully keep from getting the shingles later on.
Right, because when you have chicken pox as a child, that virus stays in your body. It also stays in your body when you're vaccinated for chicken pox.
Yeah.
But it stays in your body. It's a better protection than a vaccine. And then throughout life, when adults were exposed repeatedly to children with chicken pox, it was an environmental booster, and we don't have that now. So now we have an epidemic of shingles for which we need another vaccine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have heard shingles more and more lately. Mm-hmm. And I remember the first time I ever
children.
heard shingles, Google didn't exist. I remember sitting in a bar over there on Highway 18, the old Mississippi Bar Nothing, and I remember this woman in there saying she had, it's so weird how you can remember the weirdest things. This woman saying, I can't sit down, I got shingles. I'm like, what the hell is a shingle? And thankfully she didn't show me, but she was like, I guess it's
we have children now, like
irritating.
1-year-olds getting shingles.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
L-lysine is an excellent supplement for that.
It's an amino acid.
What is it?
Lysine.
Lysine.
Yeah.
L-lysine.
So you mentioned getting the disease to prevent getting the disease. Why did we lose that during COVID? Why did immunity go away during COVID? I've had COVID. I'm immune now. I'm good. I don't want your damn vaccine. It's like we got away from all the science to shove a therapeutic down people's throats and to make people billions and trillions of dollars, and the greatest shift of wealth from the middle class to the billionaires in history.
I remember reading before
sickening.
COVID even hit our shores in the United States that our federal government had invested like $18 billion into a vaccine. And in order to use the vaccine under emergency use, there couldn't be any kind of other competing viable therapeutic. So like ivermectin, for instance.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's why they had to lie to us about it and try to make fun of people who used it. I had COVID 3 times in like 20 months. And then one of my good friends who had been taking ivermectin since 2020 said, well, me and my husband have never had it. And I thought, well, we keep ivermectin on the farm and have for 40 years. We don't do the paste. We have a liquid, but sure. But I started taking it. I've not had COVID or flu and taking care of my family members that had both at different times and have not been sick in a couple of years now. So
the media that got on board with this ivermectin crap and all the lies that they spread, and I guess we can all remember that there's a picture that I can think CNN and all them used, maybe it was MSNBC, it doesn't matter, one of them said there was a rash of ivermectin overdoses in Oklahoma. And keep in mind, this was in the summer, and the picture they showed of people weaved out the emergency room were all wearing big winter clothes.
We found during one of the big measles campaigns they were doing years ago, we found, I don't remember what news outlet it was, had a doctor holding a baby with measles, and we found the Shutterstock photo of the same picture without measles. So like they did a Shutterstock and they put measles on the child. Anyway, they go to extreme extents to try to incite fear and a perception of, widespread death and disease and hospitalization and all that.
It's all those videos from February of 2020 that we were seeing from China with them fumigating the streets and people falling out dead in the streets. That was all propaganda. Mm-hmm. All propaganda to scare the hell out of us. So by the time it hit our shores, we were scared to death, and we were willing to do anything they said do. Not we, but lots of us were scared to death to do anything. We were willing to do anything, take all my freedoms away, freedom before safety, or safety before freedom. And, man, hook, line, and sinker, it worked.
I was reading a couple days ago, I never heard this before, but that George Washington actually originally was under the impression somehow that smallpox was a bioweapon.
Really? Mm-hmm. Well, I think a lot of it is, and I can't wait to see what actually happens to Anthony Fauci. I think that some states are going to, that little presidential pardon he got isn't going to protect him from these state prosecutions. Mm-hmm. And Donald Trump found that out, and unfortunately. And I think that Anthony Fauci and a lot of them need to find it out. Our attorney generals in some of these states, what's our attorney general's name?
Lynn Fitch.
Lynn, thank you. Lynn, looking at you. Let's see you do something.
Yeah.
Let's see you do something. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. When we come back, let's talk about food labels, something we can all start looking at today. And that affects all of us. What's on those food labels that could be killing you? We'll be right back. Welcome back in to the Clay Edwards Show. This segment brought to you by Pops Auto Sales, Highway 49 South, or 1679, Highway 49 South in Florence, Mississippi. Check them out online at popsautosales.com. They were a Car Guru's top-rated dealer. Man, they've got 62 vehicles in stock right now. I've got their website pulled up here, looking at a 2014 Cadillac CTS. They've got a 2018 Chevrolet Colorado four-wheel drive. 2019 Corvette, only 31,000 miles, black, gorgeous car. It's a 1LT. They got 2024 Malibu, man. They got some 2,500 trucks, Suburbans, Tahoes, and more. They got an older Tahoe. You're looking for something on a budget. They don't have the price listed, but I'm going to guess. Well, I don't want to guess, but I'm going to guess it's something you can pay cash for. We'll say that. Look, they got financing options available for everybody. Get pre-approved today online at popsautosales.com. Highway 49 South, Florence, Mississippi. All right, man. Joined here in the studio is Mississippi Parents for Vaccine Rights President, Miss Mary Jo Perry, and Vice President, Miss Lindey Magee. We weren't going to spend much time talking about vaccines, but it's just hard not to jump down that rabbit hole when you just think about some of the asinine rules and regulations and policies that these just things they make these kids take, and the way they've dodged responsibility for it. Look, I know we said we were going to talk about food labels, but I want to talk about one more thing, vaccine related, because I hadn't had this opportunity in my 4 years of doing the show to have this conversation with you. Autism. Is that something we're comfortable talking about here?
Absolutely.
I mean, I know we're not supposed to do it, but you know what? Breaking rules when necessary.
When it's affecting our children like it is and our families, it has to be discussed.
Okay, so I'm 47, and I had never heard the word autism until the Autism Speaks organization started getting more louder. and some people were doing fundraisers on radio, or maybe it was sports shows, something in the late 90s, early 2000s, mid 2000s. I started hearing the word autism. I had no idea what it was, and I never knowingly had been around anybody with autism until I was dating a girl in the mid 2011, 2012, somewhere back in there. She had a child with Asperger's. And that was the first time in my life that I'd knowingly been around somebody with something on the spectrum. And then I started working in the car business about the same time. And I started working with an adult that had Asperger's. And I started learning more about it and learning about the personality quirks and kind of how to function, how to work around people like that and not stay constantly angry at them, because they're very unique individuals. And now I love having friends that are on the spectrum, because they're the most honest people you'll ever meet.
They are.
They do not have the ability to tell a lie. Their brain ain't wired that way.
Right.
You really want to know how your outfit looks? Ask your friend on the spectrum. They will tell you how your outfit looks, or if your butt looks good, big in those jeans. But anyway, but there's been a sharp rise in this. And it goes back. It feels like it goes back to the childhood vaccine schedule.
So even the EPA is admitting that that the spike in neurodevelopmental delays was in or around 1989. And the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act that Lindey mentioned earlier was passed in 1986. That gave so what happened was the manufacturers, just like we were talking about, Bayer came to the legislature and said, we're going to quit producing glyphosate because the lawsuits are, dwarfing our profits. Same thing happened with vaccines in 1986. So the drug companies, the vaccine makers lobbied Congress and said, we are being sued to the point that it's no longer profitable to make vaccines. So we need liability protection. So that's what they did. And that was in 1986. And like we talked about earlier, since that time, it's been every time a vaccine is approved by the FDA, there's a mad rush to get it on the childhood schedule where it's shielded from liability. So when you take your tiny newborn in to the doctor for their 2-month appointment, 4-month appointment, 6-month appointment, it's just, all throughout the first year and then throughout their childhood. When you bring that tiny vulnerable baby in, though, and they're getting 8 to 9 different antigens. Some of them are multi-dose vials. So just because your child got 3 injections doesn't mean they got 3 vaccines. Okay. A lot of parents don't understand that some of those are like 3-way, 4-way, 5-way, whatever. When you bring that baby in, nobody is liable. The doctor's not liable. The nurse is not liable. The clinic, the government that's requiring your child to have them to go to school is not liable. The drug company is not. Nobody is liable. The only liability lies with that tiny baby.
This reminds me of, but much worse, is we put a big emphasis over the last couple of years of punishing Purdue Pharma for OxyContin. Mm-hmm. This feels even way worse than what they did creating the opioid crisis.
Well,
is getting this childhood vaccine. How they basically bribed the FDA to approve OxyContin. This childhood vaccine schedule protects, shielding these companies from liability, feels a million times worse.
Yeah, and these companies are criminal. They are the biggest defrauder of the federal government under the False Claims Act. False claims, that means they know and they allow people to be injured knowingly in order to profit. And so these are the people that we've given protection from liability. Autism, as you mentioned, is not a disease in and of itself. It is a cluster of symptoms. So like you can lose an autism diagnosis if you go to therapy and you learn how to behave differently. You see what I'm saying?
It's like a behavioral disease.
Yes.
Not disease,
but the spike was absolutely in 1989, and it's even accelerated. We don't really know if it's just vaccines or if it's vaccines in combination with other things like antibiotics, which was the experience for me. My oldest son was put on IV antibiotics in the hospital because they had an outbreak they thought of something, thought he might have, his vitals were elevated. So saturated him with penicillin and then we went and got all the vaccines and he wound up with some brain inflammation. And then as he became a toddler, he was language delayed. He was toe walking. He was obsessed with music. He gigs now for a living around the Jackson metro area.
Never know.
Okay. So, and he's doing great now, but I had to stay in his face when he was little. I mean, I put a lot of hard work into him. But there's also some evidence that glyphosate disrupting the microbiome, because glyphosate was original, which is Roundup, was originally, it was marketed. At first it was a chelator. Then it was an herbicide, and then it was also patented as an antibiotic. So it wipes out a lot of the good gut bacteria. And once your gut's a mess, then you have permeability where you get things in your bloodstream that can get to your brain. And the thinking is that it's just our kids just have brain inflammation, and sometimes those symptoms look like autism.
That's interesting. And I know we all know some of the symptoms. If you've been around anybody, it's just hyper focused on one thing, and like that's their thing. And
sensitivity,
anxiety,
to stimulus, and
Well, and Clay, you mentioned knowing some autistic people. I think that it goes really untold and unseen unless you're kind of living in this place, that there are so many children who are autistic who you don't see because their parents can't leave the house with them. They're teenagers wearing diapers without words because they can't speak. And those children get forgotten a lot of times, but they're out there in droves.
I didn't know that.
Absolutely.
I didn't know that, because we're starting to see more of them as adults now, because the timeline would track to the mid 80s, late 80s there, to now. So obviously they're in their 30s and 40s now, and you're having to deal with. I say having to deal. I don't mean that in a bad way, but you're coming across it more and more and more.
It's a burden of finding care, figuring out because there are some that are brilliant, fully functional,
Elon
doctors,
Musk.
whatever. Yeah. But then there are some, and that's why they call it ASD, autism spectrum disorder, because it's a spectrum of symptoms. But it's definitely behavioral. There's an autoimmune component to it. Brain inflammation is one of those components. And so, hopefully with Bobby becoming our Secretary of HHS, we can get to the bottom of some of this. I'm really excited about it. People have, the media has been so scared of him. They demonized him for years, called him an anti-vaxxer. They called it, measles moms, anti-vaxxers, just whatever pejorative they can come up with to make us look bad so that people won't listen to us.
You don't trust the science.
Trust the science, except that
they don't trust
the
science.
Yeah.
That's been the problem, is they don't trust the science. They haven't done these double placebo studies.
Right.
And, when I heard him talking about that, I was so mad, not at him, just mad that we've been lied to for so long, and that if you've questioned it, you were shamed and shunned, and it used to be called a conspiracy theorist. Now it's anti-vax or anti-science denier. All these things. How about punch you in the face if you do ever call me any of those things again? Let's take a break. When we come back, we really are going to talk about these food labels, because that's something I'm very passionate about. We'll be right back with the parents for vaccine rights, MPVR. We'll be right back.
I'm so glad.
Welcome back in to the Clay Edwards Show. We're live here on WYAB, streaming worldwide in 4K, stunning 4K, on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Rumble. Just search Save JXN. Sometimes on Rumble, you got to search Clay Edwards Show. I accidentally set up two channels under one channel, so it can be a little wonky. So if you can't find it at Save JXN, just search Clay Edwards Show. No "the" in front of it. Let's see here real quick. This segment brought to you by our good friends over at Lakeland Glass and Tint. Guys, they've just won the Expel Dealer Installer of the Year for the third year in a row. Our very own Flowood, Mississippi, little old, locally owned Lakeland Glass and Tint has just won a worldwide conglomerate company's Installer of the Year, Dealer of the Year award 3 years in a row. I wish I could explain just how big that is for the quality of work they do there at Lakeland Glass and Tint. So look, whether you need your vehicle tinted, your home or business tinted, your vehicle wrapped with turn it into a rolling billboard, or you just want to change the color on it, get one of those nice little flat colored, matte colored finishes, they can do all that right over there. They also do ceramic coating, which is the ultimate protection for your clear coat and paint and windows. They put it on glass too. But check them out. And of course, they also replace windshields in automotive glass. And they got a brand new location to serve you right there in downtown Brandon on the corner of Highway 471 and Highway 80 or West Government Boulevard or West Government Street, whatever it's called. They're doing windshields and window tint only at that location. They do windshields on the Lakeland Drive location, and they do the window tint, the wraps, and the ceramic coating at the Flowood Drive location. Get a quote today, LakelandGlassandTint.com. And let's go to the Mazda of Jackson phone line where I have a feeling I'm going to be asked a question. Hey, brother, you're on there.
Good morning, Clay. Big Ed here.
How you doing?
I know you want to hang up now.
No. I knew who it was.
Yeah.
I have not watched The Antidote by Dr. Artis, but I have it written down here with my list of 4 other ones that I've learned today that I have to watch. So I've moved it. I've moved it to the new list.
Mary Jo and Lindsay, y'all are my heroes, and I don't have any children. I'm 76 years old and I haven't been blessed, and I don't think I'm going to be blessed for the rest of my age. But I definitely care about the children in this world. I was wondering if y'all come around and started to address the issue of shedding with people who have had the vaccine, and what are we going to do about it?
So if you're talking about the COVID shot, the science is limited on that, but it is it is pointing toward shedding. There's some evidence that it is. I would assume that that we can trust Kennedy now that he's Secretary of HHS to get to the bottom of that. There are some detox protocols for that you can find that doctors have created to detox from the spike protein, is what I'm assuming you're talking about shedding. With our childhood vaccines, the inserts, the manufacturer's prescribing information actually tells you that chickenpox, measles, mumps, rubella, and polio, if you're using the old polio live virus vaccine, all shed, and children should be kept away from people on immunosuppressants when they get those vaccines. So that's actually addressed. They just don't talk about it a whole lot because, that's not something that they want you to know. Polio, for instance, we use an inactivated polio injectable now in the United States. When my oldest son was little, we used an oral polio, which was a live polio vaccine. But they still use that live polio vaccine in other countries. So what we're seeing today, if you hear of any cases of polio, it is 100% vaccine strain polio. That's a fact. We've not had wild polio in the United States since the 1972. It's been a long time, in the 1970s. So vaccines do shed, and that is a thing. With the COVID therapy, that's not really a vaccine, so you're not shedding a virus. It's the spike protein that's being shed, and that's what of course we know is causing all the inflammation and the clots and all all the problems that we're seeing with COVID. But I would, that's something that I'm going to trust our new HHS secretary with to get to the bottom of that.
And meanwhile, Dr. McCullough does have a protocol dealing with the spike protein, so you could Google that.
Right. I understand. Well, I really appreciate y'all's efforts.
Thank you.
I wish I could do more. Being a disabled retired veteran is kind of hard.
But thank you for your service.
I need to do a lot of research on the internet. And what I've found is really appalling, what they're trying to do to us. And anytime I can give somebody any information that I've come across, I'm trying my best to do it.
Thank you for that.
Keep up the good work. And I'm going to cut you people loose. Let y'all continue the show. And God bless all of you.
Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate it, Big Ed. Good stuff there. Appreciate that fella's support constantly. And I'm going to return that by watching that documentary today when I get home. It's called, I just wrote it down.
The Antidote.
The Antidote by Dr. Artis, I believe is what it is. He's been wanting me to watch that. Said it was the most important thing I could do, so I'm going to take his word on that. I imagine it has something to do with this, based on the name, The Antidote. So I will definitely check that out. Look, we got about 7 minutes left here this morning. So let's hit this food label stuff here real quick. And look, guys, when I started looking at food labels, I don't like to use the word appalled too often, but I was appalled once I did a little research and started watching a bunch of YouTube videos. I was kind of going down the ketosis rabbit hole and the carnivore rabbit hole and just trying to live healthier, organically type rabbit hole, and just the stuff you need to avoid. And you look at these labels, and they're like, 0 sugar this, fat-free this, keto this. And you look on the back of these labels, and you start seeing this stuff like, hell no.
Yeah. Paragraphs of ingredients. Paragraphs.
What is it?
Paragraph of ingredients instead of just, So it's important to look, I was shocked. I was trying to find freezer pizza for my younger men, my sons that come home from time to time, and but bioengineered ingredients on almost everything, taco seasoning, all the frozen pizzas, Bush's baked beans. So those are things that I look for. I look for high fructose corn syrup to avoid. The shorter the ingredient list, the better. Bobby Kennedy had a MAHA tip of the day that he posted on X not too long ago. He says, I can't say this enough. Eat more beef, eat more eggs, drop the carbs, eliminate processed foods, cook with butter, cut the sugar, drink plenty of water, 20 minutes of sunlight a day at least. Check back with me in 30 days. Your body will thank you.
So true.
Yeah. So other natural flavors is another one that we look for. MSG, as Lindey mentioned earlier, maltodextrin, just anything that
polysorbate 80.
Yeah, I mean, just anything that's you'd have to
artificial
look up in a dictionary.
colors. Watch your children.
The artificial colors are such a big thing right now. I mean, it's the red that's the poison, right?
Yes.
The red and the Fruit Loops and all that stuff is absolute just poison. They're not allowed to have red Fruit Loops over in Europe, I think.
It's several
Canada
of the colors,
else.
even Canada. Like Kellogg's already has, and Kraft already has a macaroni and cheese that they sell in Europe because they don't allow those ingredients over there. They already have the formulations and the boxes with the ingredients on them for Canada and Europe while they poison our kids. And we allow it.
So my assumption is it's more profitable to poison is why they're doing it.
I think it's addictive, and
they say it sells better. The colors sell better. People like the colors.
Yeah.
And
Fruit Loops was my favorite cereal growing up.
Yeah, me too.
And the red is the color that jumps off the most at you.
I sadly ate Fruit Loops coming and going with my second child before I knew any better. And he has, he developed angioedema where his face swells up like he looks like he was stung by a wasp all over his face. When he takes even medication with red dye.
All right, let's do a couple question answers real quick. What is beef tallow, whatever it's called? I've seen y'all talk about this.
Answer that one.
I've heard about it. It's been the buzzword the last few months, and I don't know what is this, and when did McDonald's quit using it and replace it with the vegetable or whatever? I've been hearing all the big fuss about it.
So beef tallow, and there's a lot of confusion about this. Beef tallow is rendered from the suet, which is the kidney fat from a cow. There's fat surrounding the kidneys, and you take just that fat. It's not all beef fat; it's just that fat. It's called suet, and you like cook it down. And I've not actually made tallow, but I do sell the suet. Got a good bit of it in my freezer, and it's very popular for skin care, for deep frying.
I've seen one of our friends, Sarah Wood's daughter, is selling it up there. I think she's living in Tennessee. I've seen where she's selling it online now, and good for her, man. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I do too.
That's what happens when you raise your children as an activist.
That's right. Mom. She grew up on the steps of the Capitol with MPVR.
I know. That's why I brought it up, and I knew y'all know what I was talking about. Look, we got a couple questions here on the Guns and Gear text line. By the way, happy birthday, Mary Jo. Wild Bill just texted that in too. So happy birthday, Mary Jo. Josh says we're circling back to the autism conversation. He says, what about THC, marijuana being a cause of autism? There are studies there were studies on that, and it was deemed to be a contributing factor. You got familiar with that? I
have heard that, but I know so many mothers that never touched it.
Yeah.
That have children that have had brain inflammation that resulted in autistic-like symptoms. So,
I can definitely see where consuming too much marijuana will make you very paranoid and give you autistic-like behavioral patterns.
Yeah, again, it's a group of symptoms. Mm-hmm. It's not a disease. So, so what kinds of things insult the brain and the nervous system that result in these symptoms? That's the question that we need to be asking. And I would suspect that it's multifactorial.
Another question here, unknown texter. It says, I had chickenpox twice. Should I be fine when it comes to shingles?
You should be.
At what age?
Yeah. At what age? Good question.
Might need to be boosted.
Probably you can check your immunity, because what happens is when you don't get that natural booster, your immune system is just suppressed for whatever reason. You're exhausted, not eating right, whatever. That's when shingles expresses itself.
Gotcha. Let's take our last break, come back, land the plane for the day with Mary Jo Perry and Lindey Magee with Mississippi Parents for Vaccine Rights here on the Clay Edwards Show. We'll be right back.
So much more to talk about. Plastics, PFAS.
Welcome back in to the Clay Edwards Show. We're live here on WYAB. We got a few minutes left, about 3 minutes here with our Mississippi Parents for Vaccine Rights moms, Miss Mary Jo Perry and Lindey Magee. We appreciate them coming up here. I don't think this is going to be the last time we do this. We left a lot of meat on the bone today that we didn't get to talk about, plastics and just so much more, and actually discussing some of the things that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Bobby, as they call him, is hoping to get done. Ladies, just in a short 2 or 3 minutes here, what are some of the things that you want to see Bobby do first and foremost, like day one type stuff? Mary Jo, we'll start with you.
Well, and I think he's already gotten to work. He made a post on X with his MAHA plan to reform the USDA. He says, we're going to give farmers an off-ramp from the current system that destroys their health, wrecks the soil, makes Americans sick, and destroys family farms. We're going to rewrite the regulations to give smaller operators a break. We're going to encourage sustainable regenerative farming that can build soil and replenish aquifers. We're going to ban the worst agricultural chemicals that are already prohibited in other countries, and we're going to remove conflicts of interest from the USDA, dietary panels, and commissions. And, of course, we want to see him have the proper safety studies done on childhood vaccines that have never been done.
Well, he mentioned that, I want to say, in his address when he got sworn in, going back and doing these studies. And I'll tell you, it was of all the different swearing-ins and stuff that I watched, that's the ones I got. I didn't cry, but it was emotional watching that, going back to his father, being in that office, and just everything, and the fight that everybody has put up with on this side, for us to get Trump, for Trump to get him, for y'all to get Bobby, for everybody to kind of get what they want on this side for once. Like, it feels like everybody has got a chance of getting what they want out of an administration, regardless of how you feel about Trump or how you feel about Bobby or whatever. I think we're going to win.
I think
even
so,
the people. I told some people the other day that were crying about Trump or something. I said, he's even going to drag you bastards kicking and screaming on his back to make America great again, even though you don't deserve the America that we're going to make great, because y'all have done everything you can to destroy it. And I think once you kind of show people that there's another way, they will appreciate it.
For those of us that have been in a fight for so long, that's okay. For those of us that have been in this fight for so long, this is nothing short of a miracle. And I believe as a result of all the prayers of all the mamas over the years.
100%, 100%. Lindey, got about 20 seconds. You got anything you want to close with?
Wow, I'm just grateful that you have had us on here. I'm so grateful that we're living in the time that we are. What a time to be alive. And I'm just really excited about the path that we're going to be taking moving forward with MPVR, bringing Mississippi into the MAHA movement.
Tell me y'all's website again.
MPVRPAC.com.
MPVRPAC.com. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks.